thanks everyone. It's taken a while to put this together. Um, as a matter of fact, it's taken longer to get these 3 videos put together and produced than it did to actually do the pilot on SpaceOps. 2.5 times as long. And now that we're here, I think we've got a great piece of content for you. We've got our partners in finally. We've got ConnectSoft, who did the edge. We've got Presec, who supplied the sensors and the wireless gateway, and AWS that helped us out with a little cloud they have. Bruce, our lead engineer. With that, I'll ask questions as we go along, but for now, I'm going to turn it over to Bruce. And absolute Bruce, take it away and tell us about the journey with SpaceOps and kind of how the interaction happened with the various components and what we can do.
So SpaceOps is a kind of a bolt together project, and we had a bunch of different layers of technology that were built together from ConnectSoft and Presec and AWS, and it's an amalgamation of all of these great products that offer a secure and robust way to measure the usage of your space. We'll start with the data gathering portion of this. So, Mark, we ended up using Presec for the gateway and the sensors, and I know you guys have a pretty robust offering of not just the occupancy sensors, but you have additional sensors as well. We ended up using the wireless gateway and the conference room sensors, as well as the under desk sensors for this. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah, so Presec have sort of 3 main verticals of sensor technology: occupancy, energy, and environmental. For the purposes of this, obviously, we're focusing on the occupancy side, but the philosophy we adopt is to focus on providing easy to use, sort of robust hardware that will very accurately capture a specific metric and obviously pass that across into third-party world. So we use the Ocean Protocol, which is a very low power method of passing data from IoT devices across through a gateway into sort of the back end system. This protocol allows us to maximize power usage and battery life within the devices. So we can typically look to get sort of 10 years plus. So the maintenance side of these devices is very, very low, very easy to install, and very accurately measuring whether or not a space is occupied. So there's a number of different varieties depending upon whether people want to look at a targeted space, such as a desk or a hot desk area. They want to look at a wider space, such as like a table or a multi-occupancy space. And then there's a room occupancy or a large space occupancy as well. These devices are binary in measuring whether or not the space is occupied. And then they pass a real-time message back across through the wireless gateway, which enhances the data and puts things like timestamps, friendly names, and makes it more manageable before handing it across in near real time back into the cloud platform that obviously is SpaceOps here. The system is intended to be very easy to deploy and eminently very scalable, so that as the end client is able to realize their strategy for, in this case, occupancy, they can quickly extend and use the power of the platform and the flexibility and the versatility of the sensing devices to very quickly scale up. And it can measure very small occupancy projects right up to the sort of large global strategies as well. So it's a very dynamic system that puts the power in the hands of the client to be very aware of what's being measured, agile insofar as they can quickly redeploy if they've wanted to move from one space to another, and gives them obviously a huge amount of real-time accurate data that can then be modeled by the SpaceOps platform, so that they can very quickly understand how the space is being used and obviously then realize their space planning strategies from the data.
I guess from the idea that we have wireless protocol there. Clearly, we're familiar with the notion. We've worked with it successfully. But Mark, could you tell our audience a little bit more about the Notion protocol and the security?
Yeah, so the Notion protocol is like a proprietary bandwidth depending upon the geography. So Europe, US, Japan, some of the APAC areas use different IoT frequencies. In the US, it's 902 megahertz, Europe 868 megahertz. This is a very secure method of transmitting data using very low power requirements. The benefits of Notion over some of the other technologies, apart from the encryption, so we use sort of one-way encryption from the sensors through to the gateway, and then TLS obviously from the gateway on. What Notion allows us to do, because of the size of the packets is very, very small, the demand on the sensing devices from a power perspective is very, very low. That combined with the relatively short range of the Notion gateways means that we not only get a secure encrypted way of passing data across, we also get, we introduce physical security as well. Because of the shorter distance that the gateways communicate over compared to some of the other technologies such as LoRa, you can't sniff out that network. You can't discover and identify that network unless you're in relatively close proximity. Now, a lot of the clients we talk to, obviously large blue chip companies with large real estate, to physically or to detect that type of network through any form of sort of interrogation method requires generally you to be quite physically present within that space. So the security parameters obviously will inhibit that. Some of the other technologies that got much wider broadcast distances can obviously be discovered and ultimately then worked on by someone who's got, negative ulterior motives. So that's why we chose Notion in this instance. The technology is very robust. It requires very little maintenance, and the flexibility with what we can do and how we can work with it means that despite the broad portfolio of devices that are available and can be deployed, the way the data is securely handled and passed back to the back-end system is consistently secure and reliable.
Great answer. Bruce, how did you find working with a Notion, with the adoptions and the encryption?
A big part of this was the fact that, and Mark can correct me if this is a Notion specific or not, but we were able to manage the gateway remotely through AWS. We were able to onboard sensors. We're able to update sensors. We're able to do all of that. Was that specific to the Notion protocol, or is that a feature that the gateway offers?
That's a feature that we offered as part of the gateway. The Notion messaging protocol is almost exclusively between the sensor and the gateway. What we did when we developed the gateway and the firmware and the software that sort of resides within it and manages that is obviously work with all the tools that AWS offer to us. And through our integration with the AWS platform as AWS partner, we're able to exploit a lot of their capability and the tools that they use to allow that ease of management. So it's always, the premise has always been to try and make life as easy as possible so that we take all the hardware headache to allow everyone else then to focus in the areas that they're specialists in and obviously able to deliver better.
Yeah, so we use both methods of integration. We use the AWS platform through the SpaceOps front end and using a Lambda to manage the sensors themselves. But we also did traditional just to see how it was. Both of them were painless, seamless, very easy to use.
Awesome. Any from ConnectSoft, Michael at ConnectSoft?
Yes, I think, Mark, you put it very well. The importance of context-enriched data that contains metadata, which is really important because on-premise data acquisition is totally different than data acquisition pushing to the cloud. Yes, you need much more information. You need location information. You need quality information. You need information about which protocol, which device, a lot of information that is taken for granted if you're on premise because you're so much closer to the data. You know exactly what you're dealing with. So we were faced with the challenge when we adapted the Unicom Edge device for the PressAct gateway to push the data to the cloud, to combine two requirements. One is, of course, the very rigid security requirements of the customer and the normalization of data so that in the end, the data can be combined with other sources in exactly the same way as we use the occupancy data. For instance, building automation data, energy data, data from totally different protocols and sources. So the secret, I think, to this whole application design that we used in this SpaceOps environment was right from the beginning, have a normalized data structure that contains all the metadata, the context, and then in the cloud, you have all the options what to do with this data. We had the option to put it in a normal visualization. We had the option to put it in the IoT core of AWS to work with it in context. And this could even go much further. It would be put into AI algorithms that optimize the data, into machine learning that recognize patterns. And the more the data describes itself, the more effective all of these mechanisms are to work with this data. Yes. Traditionally, IoT data is a big data pool. And of course, machine learning will find some kind of patterns in a big data pool. But if the data is described correctly and utilizes all the information from the sources, and PressAct provides very rich information through the gateway of these sources. So it's very easy to push this data up, but to have it in a manageable way. So you don't need to manually enrich it in the cloud and explain what is this data, where does it come from, what is the relationship to the energy consumption or the relationship to the meter readings and so on. All of this would be self-described. So I think this is a challenge that we attacked. And I think the result, as you said, Bruce, is extremely promising with all the features that we have in AWS, the features from PressAct, and we should not forget, we did have very rigid security requirements. Yes, we had to tunnel everything through a very small channel that not only pushed the data up, but gave us the opportunity to do the remote onboarding, to update things, to reconfigure, to add more occupancy fields. So all of this, I think, showed that this strategy was a very successful one.
Excellent.
Yes, it is, of course, a combination. Yes, all the components are only as good if they utilize each capabilities to the maximum extent. Yes, so we had rich information from the PressAct gateway. We had the agility in the Unicom to adapt different protocols, different concepts in a unified mechanism. We had the control capability on the same stream going up and down into the cloud or from the cloud, and we had the management capability. And the nice thing is that there were several strategies how onboarding should be done. Should it be top-down? Should you onboard first in the cloud and then push the information down and onboard the actual physical sensors? Or do you go the other way? First onboard the physical sensors and then integrate it into the cloud application? Both scenarios were absolutely possible. And at the end, you had the choice of how you want to work and were not restricted to the system. So this basically was the protocol agility that we had. the extendability, and we can even say it was an extensibility that we could apply to a live system. We didn't have to stop the system, adapt changes. We could do all these configuration, sometimes even adapt the changes on the fly while the system is running. And this, of course, is a huge benefit, utilizing this flexibility also in the AWS cloud to the maximum extent. Yes, because the AWS cloud is so flexible in being able to onboard all these things in IoT Core that there shouldn't be any need to shut down things just to add pieces.
Excellent. Now, one of the things, and Bruce, can you talk about how you worked with the Unicom to create the unified namespace that ultimately cascaded up into AWS, making it easy for data lakes and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, so each sensor is capable of giving us only a set amount of information, right? And I think we are accepting and holding on to every field that they give us. But so like Michael had said, the customer had extremely strict security requirements, and so we concentrate all of the data in the Unicom. So the PressAct sensors gather all that data. The gateway gathers and transmits the data to the Unicom, and then the Unicom is our kind of bridge for that gap between the local sites and the cloud. So all of that data is then concentrated in the Unicom, and then we stream it through to the AWS Fargate container that we have running, and that which is also provided by ConnectSoft, that gathers and parses that data, and then we plug it into a time stream database. So it's not, in this case, not technically a data lake, because it is more constrained to the time stream database, time stream tables. But we have all of these different records that are telling us, all of the data that we need, the location, the current status of it, the name of the sensor. We have all of this different data, as well as the configuration data, and kind of ancillary data like voltages and signal strength, that we're able to put into the time stream database and then get that data out when we need to analyze it. And those analysis tools that are existing in the AWS time stream, that exist in the OpenSearch platform that's on AWS, all of these analytics kind of give us the flexibility to use the data as we need it for the day-to-day operations, putting it on the web server so that people can visualize what their current occupancy is, but also the fact that we can just hit it with a SQL query at some point and pull out all of that data and then feed it into an AI ML type system, and find those patterns that are going to be, things that maybe, because AI ML is great for picking out unintuitive connections between your data. And so, the ability of TimeStream to house that in a low cost but high volume type situation, and then be able to retrieve that whenever you need it, to be able to feed it into one of these AI ML platforms, means that, that it reduces the amount of maintenance and work for me, which I'm all for, because, the less work and the more benefit we get out of any platform, it is I'm all for that. I'll work for that all day. So, those benefits are enormous when it comes to the data structure that we were able to pull out of those sensors and then get transmitted into the AWS TimeStream platform.
I think, Bruce, you touched a very important point. Yes, and I want to re-stress this. When we see the data traveling, let's say from the sensors to the gateway, from the gateway to the Unicom, from the Unicom to the load balancer, to the Elastic Container Service, to the Lambda service, to the IoT Core, and so on. Since we own this data stream, we are able to enrich in each step additional information that helps us manage the data on a very large scale than in the cloud. Yes. So all the data is preserved that comes from the PressAC. It is added or enriched with data from the Unicom in location, is then enriched with data in the Elastic Container Services, knowing from which location something comes. All of the data qualities, all of the additional meta information is there. It is then put into the format for the IoT core. So in the end, we have so much information that makes it so manageable. And I think this is exactly the important point that you mentioned, that in each step, we add data that is helpful then in the cloud.
And Bruce, when this was architected, I know that we chose TimeStream, and I think TimeStream's still the right choice for what we're doing here today. But can you and Max talk a little bit about the flexibility of where we could go? And what would it take to kind of push this to S3 or Redshift, or and then really, or even SageMaker, till you start putting some ML on it? Just talk a little bit about that what if and kind of the pathway and what we did. We don't need to rehash the design decision of why TimeStream today, but the idea that the cloud is flexible once the data is packaged so well at the edge through the combination of PressAC and then ConnectSoft and then the ingestion into our cloud, then it's easy to do something else with it. And if you guys want to hash that out, I think I'd be interested, or audience be interested, and we all appreciate it.
Yeah. Whenever it comes to cloud, especially AWS, and once we get the data inside of AWS, it's really a trivial matter to get it anywhere else. You're talking about data lakes and whatnot. That seems to be our like a huge thing right now. You'll have customers just dumping huge amounts of data, which we could have done in this project also. But I do agree that the TimeStream database was the best choice for this one in particular. But if you want to start doing stuff like bringing in AI, then we'd want to start putting data into data lakes, which is just cheap, simple S3 storage. Then we can take those data sets that are costing almost nothing and run AI ML on top of that. The other thing, if you want to start doing data warehousing, yet again, it's another trivial operation to get that data into our Redshift database. And that's pretty much across the board with all of the data technologies. We have easy ways to move things from one place to the other. Majority of it starting from a data lake or from something like a TimeStream database, especially with the IoT side of things.
Yeah, and I'm a relative newbie to AWS, but I gotta say, and I'm not just pulling anybody's leg or tooting your horn for you. One of my absolute favorite things about AWS is that so we're pulling in data into IoT Core. It can go from IoT Core into pretty much anything. I mean, you can take it the flexibility there. We could take it from IoT Core to TimeStream, which we're doing, obviously. You could take it to a MongoDB. You can put it in the IoT analytics directly into that. You can put it into the Kinesis Firehose, like you said, Redshift. We can the possibilities and what you want to do from any particular point in AWS to any other particular point in AWS. There might be a step or two in between, but you can get data from here to all the way over there with very little work and very little management. And again, on my part, which is what I'm all for. If all I got to do is spin something up and say, you talk to that over there, and it does it. I mean, I love that aspect of what we're doing with this. If we ever needed a major architecture change, it would be a very, very simple, not easy, but a very simple process to change the whole data structure once the data is in AWS to the presentation to the customer. It's a very simple change. You could program everything parallel and then just kind of move it. And as soon as the data is going from one pipe into the other pipe, it would be seamless on the customer visual side of it. And I love that.
One of the things I want to bring up when you say that, Bruce, is the fact that at AWS, we have a concept of a one-way door and a two-way door. And the cool thing is with much of our technology, it's a two-way door. If you have a one-way door, it's hard to back it out. Legacy, our infrastructures that I've grown up with, it's hard. You commit to an architecture, you're going to be in that architecture. What you were just saying is absolutely right. We have two-way doors. That's one of the nice things is I've seen customers, as well as we've made some pretty major changes in the middle of this project. And it really was, a couple clicks of a button. And now we've got either both sides functioning until you can turn one side off. So yet again, with that two-way door, or we can just turn them off because we've already tested it. We've had, our QA testing on one side. Now it's ready to go. So those two-way doors are very important. And that's where I don't see a lot of one-way doors in cloud technologies. And especially in your project, everything was just a couple clicks and we could change major directions.
If we were going to look at a refactor here out of all the things we did, I think one of the things I'd like to look at, and I think we'll find out the flexibility of it in that other project we have going, is replacing the React website with AWS QuickSight. And the idea that you have a BI tool as a service, pay as you go by month, different users, public dashboards. I think the flexibility that brings would be something that I'd consider for version 1.1. See how that goes. And I don't know if Max, you can talk a little bit about some of the flexibility of QuickSight. I don't want to go too deep into it since it's not part of this one, but if you just validate my idea that makes it a good idea, I think we'd be okay.
Yeah, absolutely. QuickSight this is the exact thing I see with customers going into these types of projects or any type of project that's very data heavy. And QuickSight is a great tool. It's a low commitment. You just pay as you go. It's super powerful. We have such great adoption for it when people see it. It just like I was saying before, is it hooks into everything. You don't have to have a certain database or certain technology. You could pull data out of TimeStream. You could pull data out of S3, just raw data. Wherever you have this data, QuickSight can pretty much get a hold of it. So it's absolutely a wonderful tool, especially inside the AWS ecosystem, where we have that compatibility amongst many of our services.
I think it's awesome that the user management tied into IAM, and I think the other thing that makes it good is the embedded dashboards. I think from our standpoint, our customers, they want to see embedded dashboards, and especially around things like occupancy that has a direct effect on employee experience, or our other projects with reduction in carbon usage, right? Where they want to be able to say, hey, we're a good environmental citizen and we're making progress. And I think those embedded dashboards that are so easy with that tool are so important to them. And so I think your tool enables us to deliver what we want to our customers. And I think that's true of all of our vendors here. And a heartfelt thank you from us at Wunderlich-Malec. We know that sometimes we can be a little demanding, and it's towards a goal that yields moments like this where we've accomplished great things, and we're unapologetic for the way we got here. So, Bruce, from a standpoint, before we ask the vendors, give them an opportunity to talk about what's coming from them, is there anything else you wanted to talk about with regards to SpaceOps and the development practices or the life cycle that we've initiated?
No, I think we hit on all of the major points, but I do want to point out that that we wouldn't have been able to finish this product without the direct involvement of each of you guys. From the perspective of Pressac, they provided us with a proprietary firmware version to address some of the concerns and some of the needs that we had. which a lot of places won't do that for you. Believe me, I've asked, I've been told no on a number of occasions, but Pressac provided a level of customer service that was unparalleled in their sphere. So that I just shout out to you guys. That was amazing. ConnectSoft is extremely responsive when it comes to requests for changes, and they held my hand like every step of the way. Whenever I ran into issues and it was something that was in their sphere that they could solve, they solved it. They got some really technologically advanced and very, very intelligent and hardworking people working for them. And Michael is definitely one of them. And so that's one of the best things that I can ever say about anybody is that they're competent, and that's you guys to a T. And AWS Max has again had to do a lot of hand holding because I'm somewhat newbie at AWS, but Max was able to get, if he wasn't the specialist I needed, he was able to get the specialist I needed in order to put all the building blocks together, put all the puzzle pieces together. And he was there every step of the way. A lot of times I called him up and he said, you know what? This is the first time any of our customers have run into this. This is a unique situation for you guys, but they were able to find somebody that was able to get us over all the humps. So a big shout out to all of you guys. This technology wasn't possible without you.
Absolutely. The idea that we're going to talk about the future now and kind of what's coming, but I want to start with our own Bruce Powell. One of the new features that you have is you're now a certified solution architect. And are you
associate level? Yes.
Okay.
getting that professional level soon, but associate level.
Excited? Right. Excited to keep doing AWS deliveries and IoT projects. I mean, you're traditional. You got a great industrial automation background, but are you excited by this prospect of the differences, the extensibility, the scalability that you would never see in a traditional automation sense? So
I'm so excited that I have trouble articulating how excited I am about because I have that background in PLCs and the traditional SCADA architecture with PLCs and some sort of visualization on top. And I've got this peek into IoT and cloud and all this kind of stuff. I can't tell you how excited I am for the marriage and the fusion and all of the benefits that that's going to bring to the future automation sphere, which is now. We're building those things now. Some of them are proprietary and we can't talk about them, but we're building them now. They're PLC cloud hybrid systems that they're going to change the way that from the traditional automation of relays and everything being hardwired to PLCs. That change was so drastic. This change is going to be even more so, where it goes from PLCs and DCSs to a hybrid local and cloud system. I just can't. I like I said, I have trouble articulating just how exciting that transition is going to be from the ancient architecture to the new architecture. It just provides so many new capabilities, so many new possibilities that the future for automation is extremely bright.
I'm willing to bet any one of you a very expensive bottle of whiskey that by this time next year, we see one of the big four PLC manufacturers release a PLC with a Docker CoPro component on it. Literally a part number goes into a PLC rack, but has an Ethernet port that has a Docker CoPro on it. No takers?
I mean, we have an inside scoop, so I feel like that would be insider trading. Okay.
From that point, kind of the same rotation that we did on my screen clockwise, or we'll start with Pressac and Mark. And Mark, tell us about what you've got kind of in the pipeline. Not looking for trade secrets, but I know we're already pretty excited about your low cost energy meter and looking to use that in some solutions. But what other tools that you would want not just us to know about, but our viewers and our subscribers, what would you like them to know about that's coming from Pressac?
Yeah, so from our perspective, we're seeing, I guess, two main areas of development for IoT. There's a lot of data out there that suggests the IoT market over the next 3 or 4 years is going to more than double in size to sort of nearly 7 or 8 billion sort of USD investment. So we're seeing two very focused areas. One is obviously in the ESG side of things, predominantly more from the blue chips and the industrial and the manufacturing side, and the other for the real estate owners and the people with sort of a large sort of corporate real estate footprint. They're looking at the building health experience, the employee experience, that whole sort of intelligent workplace strategy. So what we're doing is obviously reinvesting in our technology. We're viewing it as the IoT layer underpins any intelligent workplace strategy. It's the fuel that drives all of this, exciting opportunities that we've spoken about. We've all talked about how the data does X, Y, and Z, and how it moves through. And it's the data that obviously is sort of the fuel for this. So we have in the occupancy arena, we've obviously got quite a wide range of existing occupancy sensors, but we're coming out hopefully towards the end of this year, beginning of next year, with a thermal imaging device. This will allow us to very accurately count the number of people within spaces, to look at things like queue density, to track footfall in and out of sort of open space zones, so that people can understand both peripheral occupancy once people have come into a building, but understand where they go without being specific around a particular space type. So that will really allow space planners to make sure those environments are optimized for an employee. That then moves across into ensuring a comfortable employee experience. So we've got some new devices came out early this year that help people understand the air quality, the room conditions, and the type of environment that's being provided. We're seeing a lot of evidence that some building systems are not managed as well as they can. So if we can provide the input around that experience and the environment that's being provided into platforms, obviously like SpaceOps, then that can provide that intelligent workplace that a lot of people are actually looking for and needing. The third element, obviously, as you said, Jason, on the energy side, current global situation means people are paying huge amount for energy and aren't necessarily aware why they're doing so. They get the bill, the meter tells them, but they don't know where it's going, why it's going. And we're seeing a lot of interest from an ESG perspective from companies wanting to know why they're using energy the way they are. Are lights being left on? Are machines being left running in idle? Are they not optimizing their output and their efficiencies? So this is a huge area of investment. And with the flexibility of the SpaceOps platform, and as we've said about the ease of getting all these different data sources in and manageable, a platform with the power of SpaceOps we see as a crucial go-to-market strategy and to work alongside you guys, so that as we develop and create these new devices, we can push that data in and people can get the benefit really quickly. So I suppose in a nutshell, it's making sure we continue to do what we do really, really well, make it as available as possible and as easy as possible, and also take feedback from the people that are having that end user engagement, that client engagement, to see where they want to focus that effort. And because, as Bruce said, we've got the ability to modify and adapt and configure everything on a relatively unique basis, we can really focus on supporting those kind of opportunities that you're presenting. So we're a partner. It's a partner through you guys. Is the investment we're making in our future strategy.
And we really appreciate it. And I will hold the 9 million protocol questions I have about the infrared imaging counter and the metadata associated with it till another time. But the one thing I do want to say is supply chain. You guys have done a great job through the supply chain. I know it hasn't been easy. I applaud you. One of the few vendors we haven't had issues with material goods, and you guys did a great job. My hat's off to you.
Well, we strive very hard to do that. We try and set realistic expectations with everybody. And one of the sort of factors that we believe makes us stand out above other providers, and one of the USPs we feel we have, is that we manufacture everything from the circuit board up in the UK. So we don't outsource manufactured components from other territories or the geographies. So as long as there's components available at the component level, we can build and we can manufacture. So we've got a lot of flexibility that isn't reliant upon certain sort of global challenges that others face and others experience. So that puts us in quite a strong position. And then that obviously lends itself well from a security posture with some of the uncertainty around some of the pre-manufactured components that are sourced from certain territories. So finance, defense, banks, those kind of things are, so it's well positioned in that world. So, we're in a very strong position to reduce IS concern when considering this as a complete solution.
Great job. Michael and the Edge, what super stuff is coming out of Munich?
Yes. Yes. I mean, as you know, we have a clear vision. And this vision is onboarding is one of the most expensive things in distributed cloud applications. So our vision is to minimize or even eliminate the onboarding process that involves people having to go on site. So our vision, and I think currently we are already 90% there, as good as it is to work with such a large system integrator, WME, who has so many locations around the States, it is expensive to have travel expenses to send people, to wait maybe for security on site to be able to get into the buildings. So this process, we think, is not necessary because we have these built-in application generator scan engines in the Unicom. Our vision is that the Unicom is a device that finds its own way around. So you just send it via mail to the location, the customer, the local customer installs it, and from then on you do everything remotely. And this is what we currently already exercise. But what is coming up in this process is that there will be a cloud-native Unicom control center that inflates itself automatically once a Unicom goes online in any premise. And from then on, it will be a straightforward process to onboard a location, maybe even add subnets, adding devices, but everything fully done remotely. Yes, and a lot of this we already exercised with the presser gateway and with the rigid security requirements of the customer. So I think this is a vision that really pays off, because if we look at the normal IoT demos, it's typically you have a few sensors, that you see the values in the cloud, and then everyone believes that what you can do 5 times, you can also do 1 million times or 10 million times. But doing it 10 million times costs, yes? It creates cost, creates labor. And this is what we're intending to automate. And I think this we benefit from the on-premise application generator technology that we implemented and that we moved into the edge device. So I think we have a very good story coming up that completes this vision of remote onboarding. And this, of course, is aside from additional protocols and the day-to-day expansion of the Unicom to more devices and protocols. This is what's always ongoing in the expansion of the capabilities. But I think this vision is what makes the Unicom unique.
I think we've been involved in piloting several things together, Wunderlich-Malec and ConnectSoft, and we've got a great batting average, and I think it's been a great journey. So we're looking forward to any of the new stuff you're developing. Our partnership will remain strong with providing feedback, using your products to deploy solutions, creative solutions that combine all the things. And we're looking forward to it, Michael, very much so.
Fantastic, Jason. It was a fantastic cooperation, I must say. A very good cooperation. And I mean, just the different locations that we have, Munich, our office in Naples, and all of your distributed locations, the cooperation went so seamlessly. Yes. And I think this is already proof that we are cloud native and that we know what we do when we install cloud applications.
I think for the other project, we're probably going to test that greenfield adoption. I think that'd be a great one, both from a standpoint of giving it a field run in the real world, and also to be able to provide pretty good feedback and get it associated with the carbon side of the house too. And I think that's really good. So I'm looking forward to that. Max, every day AWS comes out with something new.
Yeah, we literally have over 200 services that are out there. So our roadmap is quite extreme. Each service itself has a diverse roadmap. So it's not going to be beneficial to talk about anything in particular there. But one of the things that I do want to bring up is when working with Wunderlich-Malec, the engineers that I've worked with, including Bruce here, I love the fact that you guys are builders. You truly are builders at heart. Like when I went down to Vegas and saw what you guys are doing, it was all building. And AWS is builders. We're builders ourselves. And I love the idea that whenever I talk to Bruce or anyone else down there, they're entrepreneurs, they're visionaries whenever it comes to doing things. I'll talk to Bruce and he's like, hey, I think there might be a great idea for AI/ML. He's like, well, can we do something with that? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Let's start looking at that. And he can spin something up super quickly. And before too long, I've got like 20 questions from him. And I got to go find a specialist because he's come up with stuff I've never heard of before. But I love it. It's one of the highlights of my day is working with customers like Wunderlich-Malec, because you guys are pushing the boundaries. You really are. There's no limits to what you're looking to do. And that's what we like to see at AWS. We like to see inventors. We like to see the builders out there. We like to see that enthusiasm where we don't have to worry about Bruce coming to me and saying, hey, your software, we got to set the server up to just start running basic business operations. We take away that heavy lifting from you, and you allow you to just experiment and play in a as you go situation. So that's what I want to leave you with. That is, it's been an absolute blast working with you guys, working through this project, seeing the ideas and the creativity and just the drive that you've put forward with this project.
We have a great team. Absolutely blessed. We push our guys to be free thinkers and to really challenge them and say, hey, how are we going to do this? And when we come up with a solution, I think it's very short amount of time before we ask, can we do it better? How do we make that better? And I think when we maybe to the point now where it's partial mental illness and someone comes up to us with a challenge and, hey, well, I've got a problem. I need a solution. And everyone else has said, we can't do it. And we'll raise our hand. I don't know if they're always a bright idea to raise your hand for some of the more challenging ones, but we do. And it's been great. Bruce, Ron, couple honorable mentions there. And one of our former employees, Oscar, now works at AWS, and Oscar was also instrumental in shaping this, and can't talk about SpaceOps without talking about Oscar. So big shout out to him. Hope he's doing well today and he gets his AWS certification to come talk on our podcast soon. So, all right, gentlemen, thank you all. Really appreciate it. That's a wrap.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Hey, thanks, guys.